Good evening and welcome to a live podcast. I'm your host, Bob Pace, and this is about CPS and fight for our children. Fight for our children. I want to welcome you all, and you may have had a great day or a hard day, but I hope you stay with me for an hour and try to help you with your CPS case. Now, CPS stands for Children Protection Services. It's a branch of civil services that have been going on helping children since 1853. That's when there were these large camps of children. And it went through the Civil War and went into the 20s and the 30s and so forth. But I've been studying the history, and I noticed that there's something really common that seems to be taking place. It's a money-making business. And what I mean by that, and especially in my case, because yes, I was involved in CPS. And over the 100 some people I've talked to, they are making money. And I'm talking it's $1 billion business, and they're making a lot of money off our kids. But I'll get that into more detail. This podcast, you can interact in one of several ways. The first way is that you can actually text me a message. All I ask is your name and your city and state, and you can ask away, and I'll try to help you. The next way is you can call in and be my guest. From time to time, I have guests on this podcast. But tonight, the person is going to be on my guest's show. I guess could not make it the last minute. And I'm sad because that person really wanted to talk about her case. But if you wanted to call in right now and be my guest, all you have to do is dial 626 698 0990. And you'll be connected to my phone. And I can put you on speakerphone and your face won't be shown, but everybody will hear you. And you can talk about your case. So call in at 626 698 0990. Another way you can be on the show is you can be a guest on one of my other shows. I have 14 shows a week. I'm on in the morning at 10 and again at 7 o'clock at night. They're 1 hour shows in Pacific Standard Time. On Sunday, there is an exception that I start a half an hour late. And this Saturday, there may be adjustment of my 10 o'clock time. But I'll let you know with more details as it gets closer. So that'd be great to have you talk and be a guest on my show. But if you can't and you want to be on the guest at a later time, later date, one of my 14 shows, all you have to do is email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she'll get your email. You just pick a morning, evening, Monday, Sunday, whatever day of the week to be on my guest on my show, and she'll slot you in. And I'd love to have you. I love you to talk about your case and see how we can help you, and you can help other people that call in and have issues, about problems with the CPS. Now, I do want to thank Mr. Davis and his law firm who produces this show. It's Vincent W. Davis and Associates. And they're in Southern California as well as I am. And he's here to help. All you need to do is call in 888-888-6582. But he wants to help. He wants to help. And you're going to need all the help you can. You're going to need all the help you can. In fact, that goes to my rule number 1. You will need an attorney to fight this case. And I don't mean a public defender. I mean a real professional family law attorney. And it's hard to find one in certain areas. I know that different parts of the country is probably limited. But what you want to do is you want to look for family law attorneys, write their name and number down, and try to build up a list of 10 of them. Maybe you have to go to nearby towns or cities to get them. But once you got that list, you need to narrow them down to 5. Those 5, you're going to call and interview them. And you're going to find out which attorney the chemistry will work with you, and of course your budget, because all these attorneys will do retainers. There are some attorneys do pro bono, meaning they'll do it for free. Some of them take so many cases a year. So you can ask about that too. But the main important thing is you need to look at the experience with fighting child protection services. Now, I got an attorney here right now, one of your 10 that you can call. His name is Mr. Davis. He has fought CPS and gotten kids back. He knows how to fight. He's a trial attorney. He's a professional family law attorney, schooled in juvenile cases and dependency court and so forth. And you can talk to him for 30 minutes right now. He's offering a consultation for 30 minutes. It's only $49.99, $50 for 30 minutes, and he'll talk to you and strategize with you about CPS and getting your kids back. All you do is call the number 888-888-6582 and tell them that you want to schedule a consultation with Mr. Davis. Also, make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you. And when you talk to Mr. Davis, tell him that also Bob Pace sent you. It's very important that he knows that. So I give you a rule number 1. And the reason why you need an attorney and not the public defender, it's very similar to doing a heart surgery. And open heart surgery is really, it has to be done by a professional doctor. A doctor who's been in medical school, did an internship, and has mentored another doctor before they sit there and cut open your heart. Because CPS is very complex. It's a spaghetti of nightmares. They're not very friendly. They're very deceptive. They're not transparent. And they try to be your best friend, but they'll end up working over there. In fact, their workers have done nothing more in my case, and so they'll talk to trafficking my children. They traffic children. They put them in foster care right away. A lot of times they don't even tell the parent what they're doing. One person today said how she was at home and waiting for her son to come off the bus, and the son didn't come off the bus, and child services showed up and stole the child from school. They're really getting brazen right now because they think no one can stop CPS. And it's important that we have CPS because there are children being abused. But right now they take every case as neglect and abuse. And on top of that, they think the child's in imminent danger. So that day they take the child away, which is wrong. My children were stolen wrongly. There's an allegation that weren't true. It's an allegation of family members. There's 2 types of people that make allegations. One are family members, relatives, people that don't necessarily work with children, professionals, school teachers and doctors and nurses and counselors and so forth. They have to, by law, report any neglect or abuse, and they're required to. But the lay people, a lot of them lately have been using it as to retaliate. And I know that sounds terrible, but in my case, my in-laws wanted to steal our children because I got laid off from my job through no fault of my own, and they thought that I couldn't at my age at 60 get another job, and the kids were going to be messed up. But we're living in a beautiful home, and my kids are doing beautiful in school, and we fair weathered it. But I made another mistake. I've made a lot of mistakes in here trying to defend my kids. So I want you all to learn from my mistakes, not do the same thing. So I don't want you doing it that way because you're going to find it's the worst nightmare you've ever been in. It's going to be like you're Alice in Wonderland, gone down the rabbit hole, and you have so many doors that open up that go nowhere. And you run into all kinds of weird scenarios that are going to steer you all kinds of different directions. So I'm telling you, You have to be really careful and cautious. And that leads me to my rule number 3. You probably say, what happened to rule number 2? Well, I'll get to that in a second. But rule number 3 is where you do not want to talk to social workers. You do not want to talk to police. You don't let them in your home. You don't let them take your children. And the little you say, the better off you are. Because if you do talk to them or do take your children, they'll keep your child and they will use what you say against you. An easy way to cut a social work off at the pass is say, when you say hello and they say, I'm such and such, can we meet with you at your home? And you tell them, I have an attorney I need to speak to first, which you may not have an attorney, but they don't know that. And, when they hear that, they usually will back off a little bit because they don't want to fight a case with an attorney. They've done a background check on you already. They already know what kind of person you are, whether you're homeless, whether you have income or not income, whether you have a job or not a job, whether you have, what kinds of children you have. They have a lot of information on you, and they're going to try to use it to their advantage. They're going to tricksters. They're tricksters. They'll try to trick you. And they'll alienate your children from you. And that's against the law. You're not supposed to alienate. And going back to that rule number 3, taking a child from the home, they're going to say, oh, they're in imminent danger. We need to take your children. Well, unless they have a court warrant that said they can, you don't let your children go. You hold your ground. Even if they have the police there. Same thing with the police. You hold your ground. See, they use police as intimidators. They're all dressed in fatigues and got their combat boots. They're not people friendly. And they're going to use them to take your children away. And they do all kinds of ruse. Sometimes they're at the hospital working as a case worker and they try to go into your bed in your birthing room and take your child. No, you tell them to get out there and go in the lobby. Only family members belong in birth rooms or whatever the doctor feels. I don't care, what they are, because they're going to try that. And again, you need to have your birth of your child. So I'm emphasizing, do not talk to social workers. Do not talk to police. Do not let them take your child. That's your child. You need to fight for it. An easy way to diffuse it all is say, my attorney will get in touch with you. What is your business card? What's your name? What's your phone number? Because they want to open a case and start collecting money from the federal government and from the state government that is supposed to take care of the child, but they've gone overboard with the amount of money that they get from children. I'm talking like, like $20,000 per child per month. So you have 3 children, that's $60,000. Multiply it times 100 children. What do you have? What do you have? You have over 600,000. So I'm telling you, it's a money-making proposition. They don't care if they hurt you. They don't care about grandparents. They don't care about, additional family help. There's a lot of things they don't care about. So you got to be careful of them. You got to be really with your wits in. So rule number 2 is you don't talk to them. You don't let them in your home. You don't let them in their birthing room. The same thing goes for police. They have to have a warrant. And the warrant's got to be very, very legitimate. It can't be a fake warrant. You got to look at the paperwork and see if there's a wet signature from the judge. And see if it has the right date for them to search. And make sure that they should have written in the accusations. You see, everybody gets involved with CPS because of accusations, either by professionals or by lay people. And CPS has 24 hours to start the investigation, and then they go after. But it seems like lately they will come to your home, tricking you, letting them in, and then they'll, talk about your children. Next thing he says, well, there's too much danger. We got to take them tonight. And you need to, unless they have a warrant, you don't need to have your children lost like that. That's terrible. That's terrible. And I feel for every one of you. I know that you go through a lot of this. And it's really hard. It really is really, really hard. Again, I'd like to remind everybody to call in 626-698-0990 if you want to talk live on this podcast and stop hearing me maybe talk. But anyway, I'd love to hear about your story because I know you guys are really hurting big time because they've upset your whole family, and you may have family members that are against you. They're trying to report you wrong, which I think is bad. I mean, if the child is in danger or being neglected, yes, it needs to be reported, needs to be investigated. But not every case does. And that's the sad part, is that the CPS social workers have taken on that every case is like that. And my case, didn't have imminent danger, but they took my children, and I didn't really fight it because I didn't know about the rules. And speaking of rules, there's rule number 3. I already told you rule number 1 is get an attorney. Rule number 2 is get a notebook that you put all your CPS incidents in. So anytime you have an incident with CPS, you write it down. And the format you want to try is the date and the time on the first line with the people that are involved uh, in that incident. Then the next line, the second line, you'd write down what the incident was. And then the third line, you want to put in the resolution. It was dropped or was not dropped or whatever it is there. And so that's your notebook. And again, that's something you'd use all the time. And you can look back 6 months, a year, whatever it's been. And the book may have another one added to it. That might be a book of 2 or a book of 3. And then you have 2 of 2 and 2 of 3. Anyway, it's organizing your thoughts, organizing what has happened. And I know it's very, very, very hard, what you're going through. It really is hard. It's upset your livelihood and unstable things. So you want to go through the notebook from time to time, put down color codes. You may want to come back and fill it in later or that. So that notebook becomes very, very important rule. So I've given you 3 rules now. Rule 1, hire an attorney. Rule 2, get a notebook, fill it out. Rule 3, don't let them in your home and don't talk to them. That goes for both the police and the social workers. Dealing with CPS has been hard on me. I've been doing it now with them for 14 years. 3 years I was actively involved when they stole my children. In the beginning, it was cat and mouse for 5 years because my in-laws were reporting things that weren't true about my children, and they investigated and not find anything. So that went on for 5 years. And it was hard. And I should have told them I had an attorney, and my attorney would talk to you, but I didn't know about that. I didn't know about my rule number 1, have an attorney. And rule number 3, talking to them, that was my mistake too. You don't let them talk to you or over at your home or so forth, because they'll make your life worse. And it is really, really, really hard there. Gee, I wonder where all the evening people are. There was a bunch of them that said they're going to come tonight, but maybe something came up. I don't know. Hopefully that all the people are okay in Taiwan. They had a horrific earthquake, 7.5. So hopefully that they survived. It's in the middle of the night, so maybe it will be okay. I don't know. There's a lot of horrific things happening in this world, and our children all the time. This last week on Saturday, we had all those Indiana children that were shot at, and they were like 12 and 13 years old. And you wonder why they're out there. They should be at home, and where are the parents? It isn't, necessary that the police are out of hand. It's Basically, the parents were allowing their kids at the early age of 10, 11, 9, 12, 13, 14 to go out on the streets late at night, Saturday night. And people got to be careful. People got to be careful. At times I stop and think, because I am reminded about my daughter that was stolen from me. It's so hard, my daughter. She was 12 at the time, and they convinced her and told her to divorce their parents, and change her name and seal her birth certificate. She'll still be my daughter. I don't care what she has to done there. But my wife and I have been together for 32 years, and it's really tragedy when it happens to one of her children she loves so much. Um, but trickery and all kinds of things were used. You just cannot trust CPS. They really don't help or see the light until it gets really serious with them. But but we have to stay focused. Think about our loved children, or that we love and everything, and you will get your kids back. There's no question about that. Um, Let me see here. We're still kind of early here. Let me look at some of the topics that have come across that can help you. Um, there's something I want to talk about that is brought up by people, and they want to know what it is. It's called it's it is called ICPC. Stands for Interstate Compact on the Placement of Children. And that's where they take a child from one state to another state. Um, it's supposed to provide protection and support services for children move between U.S. states for birth parents unification or reunification when the court has jurisdiction over the child. So, if it's the way that children are moved from one state to the other state and their special protection is taken. It ensures that the sending agent or individual does not lose jurisdiction over the child once the child moves to the receiving state. Okay, so that being said, um, an ICPC case is closed when a child is adopted or reaches the age of majority, that means over the age of 18, or becomes self supporting, or when the appropriate authorities in the sending state and receive state agree for the CPS case to be closed. So it's a process that guarantees that children are protected from one state to another state. Now another topic that comes up is how to do appeals. And there's one that's called a fact finding appeal. And that's where the appellate court must decide whether a reasonable fact finder could have come to the same conclusion based on the facts and the record. So, you know, everything can be appealed. It's got to be really appealed, not necessarily retry what you're accused of, but maybe a motion was made wrong or court appearance or something that was made wrong, and that's where appeal comes in. There's one of our guests on the show that's from Richmond, Kentucky. Oh, not Kentucky, someone from Georgia. And what it was is that her son was shipped to Texas, and it's for behavior health needs. And it's sad that they have to be shipped, and the parents are not kept in tune about it. They're not kept in tune about that. So you have to be careful when children are sent from state to state. Now, one of the guests or one person asked me, "What is new prunk Trump?" New, NUNC, pro, PRO, third word trunk, TUNC. That um, is a Latin expression which means now for then. In general, our court ruling, New Prac Pro, applies retroactively to the correction earlier ruling. Now, for instance, in California, the court has discretionary in family law matters to order an entry of judgment new trunk, which makes the order relate back in time to when it should have been entered to avoid injustice. So I know some people have asked about that word there. Um, some people have asked what an ombuds person. An ombuds person is a neutral party who helps resolve complaints or answers questions about CPS agency policy or practice. Some places are called DCFAS or DCS, Department of Child Services. But anyway, it's the branch that deals with protecting our children. The ombudsperson is a liaison between CPS and the public clients and other government and private agencies. The ombudsperson conducts review if an independent and impartial manner to ensure the agency's policies or practice are considered. Well, so far I've heard nothing but negative things about the ombudsperson because they're friends of the court and they're friends of the social workers. So I don't really know if they really are that neutral, independent. Again, I want to thank Mr. Davis for sponsoring or producing this show. Please call him at 888-888-6582 for help. He'd gladly help you on that. If anybody's out there that like to talk, my phone line is open. It's 626-698-0990. And you can be a guest on the show. But I love to hear someone else talk besides myself. So it's a little slow tonight. I don't see too many people here, but people have things to do. And like this morning, it was really crowded. I had like 15 people in the room. So tonight, I guess a lot of those people are doing things. I know some court appearances are coming up, and I should hear some more feedback on certain people that have been guests on the show. I feel for the hurt you're going through, and I know what you're going through. It hurted me a lot to deal with, especially when you don't know the unknowns. And CPS is the worst case to organize or do anything with. They're really terrible. A typical CPS worker, in my case, didn't have a college degree, had no classes in social work, didn't have a license or a certificate, and really wasn't accountable for anything, except she got a bonus paid by CPS, a good bonus, where every week she'd have a new Gucci purse, or, she had something nice that she bought, like eyelashes and makeup and new clothing and a BMW, because it's all from the bonus she got. She was awarded big bonuses for keeping children or keeping the case open for putting them in there. So that's the sad part. That is the sad part. that there's no integrity with these people. And it is hard. It is really, really hard. I know what you're going through on that. It's one of the hardest things you can do. Now, I have another topic here that I want to mention. One thing you got to be aware of, you have your Constitution and your civil rights, but a lot of times in child welfare cases, they don't apply. They're going to be taken away from you. And so you got to be a heads up there. Just be aware the child welfare system will rarely offer the same rights as the criminal justice system, leaving many families facing permanent separation without due process protecting. It is so sad that the parents have to go through what they do there. Now, every year, Child Protection Services Agency across the country investigates the family lives of roughly 3 to 5 million children. That's a big number. They're talking about 1.5 million people in Gaza. Here, they're talking about 3.5 million children that are being investigated for child abuse or neglect. It works out to about one of every 20 American kids. So every 20 kids you see out there, one of them is involved, being investigated with child abuse. That's a lot of children. And during that time, that's where the CPS accrues parents for wrongdoing. They enter homes to conduct searches and interrogations, and it's against their if you let them in, you give them permission, but if you don't, they don't have to, because what they will find against the parent, they'll see things they'll use against you and in the court. And of course, they have their families removed right away to imminent danger. In my cases, 2 kids were in school. I had picked up our 3rd kid until I came home, and they were telling me that my kids are in imminent danger. They need to go pick them up at the school and take my son that I just picked up. It was horrific. It was sad. It was really, really sad. And what they did is they investigated my home, and I let them in by mistake. I should never have. And unfortunately, I lost my job in 2010 through no fault of my own. And I was going through a perfect storm with all kinds of incidents happening. And one of them was my parents were dying, and they asked me to consolidate their house and put the stuff up to family, friends, and so forth. And so I had all their belongings in my house. I didn't have the money to put them in storage. I regret that I didn't, because if I did, I probably wouldn't have the problem. They thought with the boxes and the furniture piled that we were neglecting our children, which wasn't the case at all. And they said they're in imminent danger, so they need to take the children. And in fact, it was so terrible, they took them to a shelter and they put them in danger. That shelter was a concrete sterile block house. The play yard for the children was next to the juvenile prison, where the juvenile prisoners could intermix with them. Then on top of that, there was a beehive that was stinging all the children, so there was not really any safety things. The place was overcrowded, dirty, and their idea of school was to read them a book every day. That's how they were trying to protect our children, which is wrong. That is totally, totally, totally wrong. it was really hard on me because, I had been held in off for 5 years because the allegations came from my in laws and they weren't true. And I kept putting them off and off. And then one time, um, I was picking my son up, and unbeknownst to me, the detective who was requested by CPS, Children Protective Society, to bring me to the home because they wanted to search the home. What they were doing is they're using the police as intimidation, and I should have just said, nope, unless you have a search warrant, I'm not allowing you to enter my home. So anyway, the detective had a policeman pull me over for a false thing and said, and he came up and said, you're going to follow me. I followed him. He wouldn't tell me what. Then arrive at my home and out front. It's the worst experience of your life. There was 5 firemen, 2 code enforcement, 3 social workers, 2 uniformed policemen, and the detective all in my front yard. I said, why did it need all these people? Think about that. That's a lot of people. I mean, that's almost 15 people. I thought my house had burned down or something was terrible there. And also, I think the trauma effect, them picking up the children, was pretty bad too, because the children don't know what is going on. They're kept from it. There's a thing called alienation, which is wrong, and the CPS is alienating the children from us. And it was really a hard thing to swallow. It really was, because we loved our children so much. But I thought I could trust the police. I thought I could trust the social workers. So I went along with them and agreed to everything. Little did I know that they were setting me up big, big time for me to fail, because they took my children. They trafficked my children and put them in a shelter. And then after the shelter, they ask you for a safety plan within that week. And we tell them what family members they can live with, because our investigation is going to be some time. And so we lined them up with my wife's sister and her husband and thought it'd really be a workable thing. And I said it should be only a month, but it ended up being longer than a month. And after 3 months, they were too burnt out to take care of the children, so they had to let them go. So with that being said, they're put into a group home. They still kept them together, but they're in a group home. And that was a worse environment either, because they don't learn what they learn. I think my poor son was crying his heart out because he kept points. He lose points, and they had a point system, and he was scolded for drinking too much orange juice. My daughter wanted these things. I had brought them over for her, but they wouldn't give it to her special wind chime and so forth. Things that she thought were precious to her. And my older son, who tried to study, would stay late at night because they turned the lights out so soon. He was scolded too. And then the sad part is, every time we came to visit them, they were taught not to hug parents, to love parents, put your hands at your side. It's really amazing how much they do wrong. They do wrong. And it's really sad. It really is. Because as parents, we wanted to do things correctly. We want to get on there. So we signed up for what we thought might be the parenting classes that need to be done. We were proactive and trying to do everything they can to get there, because we were charged with neglect. And so that was really a hard thing, because neglect to me means that you abandon a child. You no longer feed them or house them and so forth. You're letting them deteriorate. And that was not our case. Our children had clothes. They went to school. They had meals. They had their bedrooms. And their bedrooms were not bad. They were nice. They could live in them. There's no problem there with the bed and so forth. And they did well in school too. Academically, they did well. But the sad part is, when you get involved with your kids and you have your visitations, they're going to limit them more and more so. In fact, they convinced our daughter not to see, so my wife only not see me, but then she eventually not see the wife anymore. And it was sad, because they were instituting something they should never have. Again, There's so many civil and constitutional rights they violate. It's a terrible feeling to be helpless and not be able to fight back. That is the hardest thing that I found, was you see things are wrong and you can't correct them, you can't do anything about it, you have to go with the flow. And so I went with the best I could. But it was a horrible experience to deal with that. Now, there's a code I want you to look at that's really important. It's called the Welfare and Institution Code, Section 300B. And that code right there tells you what pretty much the CPS, the Child Protection Services, can do. If the child has suffered, or there's a substantial risk the child will suffer serious physical harm or illness as a result of the failure or inability of his or her parents or guardian to adequately supervise or protect the child, or by the inability of the parent or guardian to provide regular care for the child due to the parents or guardian's mental illness. So they bring the word mental illness in there. And so right away, they're implying that all parents are mentally ill. They also, social workers say that they are clinical psychiatrists that supposedly can diagnose someone who's mentally ill. They also think they're doctors and they give medication. So be very careful of that. They think they have mental illness, development of disability, or substance abuse. That's where they're talking about drugs. Right away, they're going to test you, and you want to do your own testing, because the testing they do is usually not very good. I know it's a little bit of money to do the testing, but so you really need to read that section, because it can help you understand why they take your child, what you can do, and so forth on that. Now, I did mention the safety plan. That usually happens right after your child are taken into a shelter. What a safety plan meeting is to find a more temporary place to put your children. They usually want to recommend family members, but sometimes they manipulate them. They shouldn't, but they ask you to make a list of family members that children can stay at, and then you find out which ones. They'll check them out and interview them. But it's a lot better than putting them in a shelter or foster care, if you can put them in with a family member, as long as that family member is not against you or has an axe to grind. That's where you got to be further careful about. So there's something in there that I want to talk about, because some of you may be Native American Indian blood. Now, we got somebody that's calling in. Great. Hello, Bob Pace.
Yes, sir, man. He thought my girlfriend, Mary Ann Ball, just called me and informed me that you have a podcast that you're live right now on CPS. Well, my brother.
Welcome.
I'm going through it.
Welcome. I'm sorry to hear that. What is your name?
My name's Andrew McDanigley. I'm calling from Gilbert County, Florida. I live in Genoa, Assassin.
Okay, you're in Florida. You're in Florida, and you're Andrew, right?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and what is the allegation that got you into trouble?
Well, what started it was my cousin got killed in hit and run in Plant City, and a guy that was in my truck had a weapon, and they pulled up, and I got arrested for it, which they dismissed the charges, and my ex found out about it, and went with a box of crayons down to Tampa courthouse whining and crying because I got full custody ever since. She basically 4 months old. My ex married her twice when she was just a little bitty baby, and I had her for 6 years, and not one time on my watch she got hurt and had to get any type of medical attention. She vaccine injured, and I was trying to get her to school right here by my house where I live at. And lo and behold, on my birthday of 22, they showed up. The Art allowed them, live with Virgil. I let her in, being nice and stuff. Give her a card. Told me might need to come to the office to all that message. And anyway, she lied on me, called a bunch of kids phone calls, which only called one time. I called several times anyway. And then the next day, a CPS worker out, Cheryl came up here, and I was forced by coercion by the deputies to allow her to come inside my home alone with my 6-year-old, who does have signs of autism because he has tremendous issues behind vaccines, and I have nothing but undisputed evidence, documents.
Now, did they have a warrant? Did they have a warrant?
They took my child.
Yeah. Did they have a warrant?
No warrant. No warrant.
Okay.
No.
Did you know the law that says policemen and social workers cannot come in your home without your permission?
I was forced to let them in.
Yeah. Well, see, that thing is, you can say, do you have a warrant? If they don't have a warrant, you can say, well, I need to talk to my attorney and we'll get back to you. Your home is your castle.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I know, and I didn't either. I did not know it either, but it's your constitutional rights, your civil rights, that you do not allow anybody in your home unless you give them permission or they have a warrant. Now, if there's a crime in progress, for instance, if a shooting's taken place or someone has taken a child and banged them against the wall, they're going to come in, okay? That means they're in imminent danger, so they're going to not need a warrant. But in your case, you had full custody of your child, and I think because they wanted to take your child, they wanted to be tricksters, but because you had the allegation with the firearm in your truck, right?
My daughter was not in the truck. She was here at the house.
No, but you were arrested, right? You were arrested?
Yeah, bonded out. Yes.
Right. Okay, so you're arrested.
They never filed formal charges on me. Never filed on me. Just arrested me.
I know, but since you're arrested, CPS found out about it, and they use that against you, which is wrong. Also, they probably did a...
They said nothing about the weapons. They said it's possible imminent danger. They never clarified exactly what.
Well, that's something that you need to... They need to do that. They need to tell what it is, the imminent danger, because they have a habit of bringing the police who are intimidating and force their way into the home and then take your child. And that, they should not be taking imminent danger. That's wrong. That's wrong.
She wasn't in danger. She was safe. She was clean. Her food. I got lied on that. There was no food in the house. No food. I was trying to get her to school. That was all lies. I had evidence about that too.
Well, they probably did. They probably did a background check on you and knew that maybe you're low income, couldn't afford an attorney. And I always tell people, to use the attorney card. What I mean by that is that you tell them right up front, I can't talk to you any further. Talk to my attorney. I'll get back to you. You take their business card, take their name, their phone number, and you say the same thing to the policeman. Unless they have a warrant, they can't do it because they say, we're going to come in. I said, do you have a warrant? Yeah. And if he sits there and lies, then you have a civil lawsuit against the police department. So,
yeah, I do already. I'm going to file on this. They didn't have a warrant. I asked them. They said, no, we need to come in, blah, blah, blah. It's written to be by coercion and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And there was 3 visits in 4 days, October 11th, 12th, and then the 14th when they kidnapped my child unlawfully.
Yeah, I know.
From Hilton County CPS lied on me on my UA. I test positive for spikes. I've never touched that garbage in my life. I requested to go to a lab. They disposed of it. I mean, that's supposed to preserve evidence. And denied me a continuous to better prepare my case. She denied me not once but twice for a jury trial. And she spoke judicial civil procedures on me. Well, 1.430 states I have a right to jury trial. And I questioned her, and I requested it not once but twice. And I have everything on audio recording, every hearing, every last hearing on audio recording. My daughter's been abused in the foster care. This is not the first time they noticed. Since 18, they put her back in a home where she was forced to be removed from, where this woman was bathing her, she was beating her. This time she was whooping her ass, which is prohibited by the Department of Family Manual 2.8. No child discipline is prohibited. All that's prohibited. And this witch slapped my daughter in her face. And they know this and left them in the home for 3.5 damn months. I don't believe put my hands on her.
I'm so sorry you have to go through there, but you're learning the reality of CPS. Child Protection Service, or whatever name you want to call it, it's DCS in other states. Yeah. Yeah, they are horrible people. They're very degrading to you. Yep, I understand. I understand where you're coming from. 1 second here, if you could, for a moment. One second. I have someone that just texted in a comment. You say your name is Space, not you, but the person that texted a comment is Space, and she's asked me, "Is this live?" I said, "Yes, ma'am. It's live. I'm live 14 times a week for 1 hour at 10 in the morning and 7 o'clock at night for 1 hour. So, Space, it is live. If you have a question, I'd love to have your question. Also need the city and state you're from, Space. So anyway, we had someone just texting a message. I'm just answering them. But going back to your case, So, you say that was your girlfriend that told you that I was live, or who was that reported I was live?
Yes, sir. She called me.
Okay. Now, do you now, right? Right. Where is?
I want everybody to know my story. My daughter's
yes.
victimized again.
Well, where is your daughter at the moment? Where is your daughter at the moment?
In foster care. She's been moved so many times. It's unreal, man.
And how long has she been taken from you?
October 14th, 22.
Wow.
They've been screwing me around. No staffing meetings. None of this. None of that. I sent them notices. Legal notices. I make comments.
You still have custody. You haven't given away your custody, right?
Yes. No, that ain't gonna happen. Over my dead body.
Good. Don't give away your custody. Do not sign anything. They're going to try to trick you and say, they're going to try to trick you and say, we'll give back your daughter if you sign this paperwork. Don't believe them. Don't believe them, because they're going to try to trick you. Their whole goal is, since they've had your daughter since October 2022, they've been collecting over $20,000 a month for your child every month for the last 2 years, 3 years. And they're making a lot of money off your child. And that's why they're doing it. They're doing like that. They don't believe in family reunification. And that's the sad part. Because, I believe that when kids and parents, and if parents have a slight hiccup, that can be fixable. That's not a problem. But they should do something called, the family reunification.
They never offered it in-home case plan. They never offered it.
They're supposed to start with the first step is they first do the investigation. They have to start it within 24 hours of the complaint. Now, those complaints could be from family members using revenge. It could be from professionals. We don't know that. There's a lot of family members, friends, and relatives that will want to get that child or do revenge against you as a person. And so these allegations are sad because I was going to...
My ex,
right?
Child number 5, she has custody of none of her first 3 kids were taken from her. She got her first unsupervised visit. She took off from the house she's supposed to be living in by herself for by the judge. One of the children got a concussion, became a dark. She started vomiting, and she asked about a damn thing about it. My daughter has a slight fever. I'm getting her some medicine. You know what I mean? I'm very particular about my daughter. She's never, not one time with my wife, she has got hurt in 6 years. Being a single father, working a full-time job, taking care of everything, man. Not one damn time they know this. They admitted it.
Now, do you have an attorney? Have you got not a public defender, but do you have a professional?
I fired an attorney because she was doing nothing. She wasn't doing shit for me. She wouldn't have no questions. She wouldn't do.
Well, was she a public defender? Was she attorney provided by the court?
Yeah, they informed me.
Right. Those are the worst kind of attorneys they get. They're not going to help you. They're friends with social workers. They're friends with a judge. They are not. They're not dependency. They're not family law attorneys. They're young. They don't know what they're doing, and you just waste your time. You see, they have this law that actually they have this amendment that said anytime that you can't afford an attorney involved with a law, let's say, they'll provide you one for you. But the ones they provide you are the worst ones, which is really sad because right now CPS is preying on people that can't afford attorneys. And they got your background. They know that you can't afford attorneys, so they can do anything they want with your daughter, and they want your daughter in custody, and they're hoping that they'll wear you down. But if you stick with it, do everything they ask you, say yes or no answers, eventually you'll get your child back. Eventually you'll get your child back.
Oh, I'm going to get her back. Right now, sir, I'm in beast mode right now.
Oh, good. I had to sell my home. I had to sell my home to get my children back. So I know how hard it is. It really is. And I only got back 2 of them. I lost my daughter, who was told by the social worker at age 12, divorce your parents, change your name, and seal your birth certificate.
Wow.
And it's been really sad. She's 21 now. I encourage my sons to go and see her, but she wants nothing to do with her mom or dad, her real mom and dad. So it's a hard thing to swallow, because when you raise a child for 12 years and suddenly they say goodbye to you, that is the hardest thing. Because when she asked for a divorce, she also divorced her brothers, she divorced her grandmothers, all the relatives. When you do a divorce, it's complete divorce. And it is really sad. She's 21 now, so I was hoping that she'd be wanting to maybe meet and talk and, still recognize that her real parents, still love her. Because
she needs to ask questions about the truth. People need to know the truth about what really happened. Discover the truth.
Well, they don't really. They don't want it. They do what's called alienation with the children. They make the parents look bad. They try to have the children think their parents don't care. There's no communication during the time. Like my 3 years with my kids, we never got together once a week for meetings to talk about what's going on and how they get us back together. There's no family reunification. That's the sad part. They talk about family reunification, but they don't do it. They don't do it. Wow, you got a tough one. So where is your... Okay, I don't mean to cut you short, but my show is almost over right now. I have less than a minute, but I want you to call again tomorrow morning or tomorrow night or one of the days. I'm on 10 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, and that's Pacific Standard Time. And if you want to be on my show, if you want to be on my show as a guest, and that way you have established time and date, all you do is email to my producer, Grace, at vincentwdavis.com. Grace at vincentwdavis.com. It's Grace. Sure, it is there. Why don't you stand by, because I'm going to end the don't leave the phone. I'm going to end the show. You'll still be connected to me. Okay? All right. All right. Okay. All right. To all your listeners out there, stand by. To all your listeners out there, I want to thank you for listening to my show. Don't give up on your children. And thank you, Space, for calling in. And I'll see you tomorrow. This is Bob Pace telling you God bless, and I'll see you tomorrow.